All right, welcome. Thank you all for coming. What a great turnout. I'm thrilled with the number of people we got out here. So just a quick couple of housekeeping things, right? If we need to evacuate, go out the door we came in. If you've got a cell phone, please silence that. And can everybody hear me okay? I didn't amp it because I figured it's a small enough room, but we're recording for the video purposes. And then for those who came in a little later, restrooms are out the door here. Did we decide if they
nobody's actually tested it, but I think we'll probably
lock after you?
On the safe side.
Okay.
We've got right inside.
Okay. And apologies because the PowerPoint is a little funky. It didn't quite work the way I was expecting it to this time, but we'll kind of muddle through it. Yeah, like that. Okay, so before we get started, we just want to kind of take a moment to pause for it's, a Memorial Day weekend. We want to consider the lives that have been lost while serving to protect our freedoms. We can debate the necessity and the justifications of the wars that we get ourselves into and whether we should be involved in them or not. But through all of it, these brave people have stepped forward to serve and didn't have the opportunity to see the fruits of their labor and experience it. Now, we know that the old saying, "There are no atheists in foxholes," is not true. It assumes that in the worst times in our lives, of course, we would turn to God for reassurance, for understanding, for protection. The atheist in foxholes they don't fall to their knees when faced with mortality. Quite the opposite. One Vietnam War veteran, Philip Paulson, reflecting on hearing a chaplain preach that they should be willing to die so that they can go be with Jesus. He said this: "When facing death, my thought was to stay alive. I was just infuriated by all the people praying and waiting and wasting my precious time and theirs. I discovered in combat that there is no one to turn to. It's just you who have been saving your own ass all along. I was fighting to stay alive, not praying for life after death." So recognizing that atheists and freethinkers have fought and died in service to their country is important. And I would argue that it's also a beautiful representation of how people with vastly differing beliefs can come together, put those beliefs to the side, and work together for a common cause. So we're not a praying bunch, had our jokes earlier, but I would like to offer a brief moment of silence in reflection. So who are we? Not boogeymen. More on that in a little bit. But I wanted to just kind of sort of describe how this whole thing started, right? Becca and I have lived in various places throughout Central Florida, and recently, 3 or 4 years ago, moved from Davenport to Haines City. And we loved what the Orlando group does, right? The Central Florida Free Thought community is fantastic. We love the things that they're doing. But they're an hour drive on I-4. And the Tampa groups have a lot of great groups. There's a lot of things going on in Tampa, and it's a drive. And there are other groups happening here in the area. But when we sort of sat down to figure this thing out, I thought, what's the kind of group that I would want to get involved in? What kind of things would I want to do? And I wanted it to be more than a social group. So we looked around, and there are groups. There are primarily social get-together groups, and that's great, but we wanted to do more, so we said, let's just do it. So that's kind of how all of this got started. We incorporated in March as a nonprofit in Florida, and then very recently got our 501c3 tax exempt status. So we're going to go down the line here and just do some real brief introductions. I'm Sarah. I'm a trans person. I'm from Central Illinois in a real small podunk town in the middle of nowhere. I moved down here 10, 11 years ago, something like that. And I grew up in sort of a vanilla Christian church. We went to church on Sundays, but that was pretty much it. And we prayed at Christmas and Easter, right? The important holidays. But once all the kids had grown and moved out of the house, my parents stopped going to church. And we don't talk about it. It's not, I don't know what they believe now. I don't know if they are still identify themselves as Christians. One of my sisters married a preacher, so that's fun. Got that in the family. Preacher in Texas. Woo boy. So that's a little bit about me, and we'll flip these on so you guys can tell a little bit about yourselves.
Hi, I'm Keith. I was born in Cleveland, but I've been here since I was 6, so I'm basically a Floridian. I've never really believed, and that's about it.
Lucky you.
Yes.
You're so blessed.
No big story. I don't want to speak anyway.
Rachel?
Okay, I'm Rachel. I've lived in Polk County for about 14 years now. I'm originally from South Florida. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. That was my primary religion until I was probably in my mid-20s. And I've gone through a lot of different family issues because of all that. I have 3 kids. I just graduated from college, and that's pretty much it. And I don't like doing this. I don't like speaking in front of people. I'm with Keith.
This is why I got.
But it's nice to meet everybody.
Why I got nominated
We
to
voted
do
as
the
a
speaking.
board.
Yeah.
Sarah got the talky parts.
Yes, totally.
I'm Becca. Sarah and I have been married for what? Some number of years. I don't know.
Pick a number.
Something like that.
Something like that. We have 2 kids. I was also raised as a Jehovah's Witness and also found my way out in my mid-20s. And never really looked for any other type of religious. I just didn't get it. I didn't want to be a part of it. It didn't affect my life. And then when I was pregnant with my son, I had a lot of emotional guilt that crept back in from the indoctrination. So that's when I started researching biblical things, and really that solidified that, yeah, this is nonsense to me. So there you have it.
Keith, you want to talk about your photography project?
Oh, yes. Hello. When we first started this group, I thought we'd probably get about 20 people at the most, and mostly my circle of friends. But since it's jumped up to like 150 last
Yeah.
that blown me away. I never knew this many of us are here around here. So my photo project is I want to get as many headshots of non-believers, skeptics, agnostics throughout the state of Florida, as many as possible. When I get them all, compile them all together onto one image where it's just like a solid, like just like this, all the way down, and it'll be free to everybody. But I want to give it to like all skeptic groups, like atheist groups, to show like, this is part of your community too. We're voters. You need to count us in too. So anybody that's wants to be a part of it, the setup is right over there. Stop by. It only takes a second. I will do both.
I was gonna say.
There's another one I had, but 2 people wanted their face blacked out, so I had to take that one down.
You have the option.
Yeah. I'll show you what the other ones look like.
Yeah, and you can choose that. If you don't mind your face being on there, then I think you'll probably use that one. And then for those that want their face blacked out, and it'll just be a silhouette.
Yeah. I'm gonna do one of each because it's gonna be like 3 images. There's gonna be 3 completed pieces. One that looks just like this, one that's just all like just regular portraits, and one that's combined. Like the ones, I'm gonna combine them all together, like the ones that can't show their face because of their job, whatever. But yeah.
Thanks, you killed just enough time. Oh, that's better. See, I should have taken the extra 5 minutes at the start just to do that. How many of you have been reading the news? The local news. So what kind of helped propel us to find a lot of you? I think a lot of people found their way to us through this article in the Ledger. So reporter Gary White reached out to us. This was not something, there were some comments that we got that these are attention-seeking people and they're just, trying to get in the press. And we didn't ask for that at all. They reached out to us. I wrote a letter to the editor earlier this year condemning the Bible class in our public schools bill that was being considered. And he reached out and said, hey, saw your letter, see that you're forming a group, would be interested to know what you guys are doing. Can I come out and meet with you and see what you guys are all about? So he came out to one of our meetups. So those that were there, thank you for being willing to go on the record and talk to him. So, and then it ran that very weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And the comments were mixed, as you might expect, when they posted online. There were some people that were supportive. There were some people that found us. And there were some loving Christians. But all of that just sort of reinforces, why we need to do this work. And why I closed the window.
Yes, please. I don't have any breathing. Yeah, the fan. Very nice sounding.
Thanks a lot to PowerPoint Online. So another thing that happened in the news, our friend Joseph Richardson from the Central Florida Free Thought community gave a secular invocation before the Polk County Board of Commissioners. And that was really great. And we're going to have to solve this problem before the next one. So that was May 7th. He gave a secular invocation before the Polk County Board of Commissioners. The Ledger covered that too, and in their coverage prior to the invocation, they quoted Commissioner Bill Braswell, who said, as long as there isn't any pig's blood or goat's head, I think we'll be okay. And he swears that he's just the kind of guy that doesn't take anything seriously and everything's a joke. But those misconceptions about us as atheists, right? There they are being promoted by county officials. And he may have been joking, but there are plenty of people out there who think this about us. And they came out in the comments, and we saw them. Then on May 16th, there was a letter to the editor in the Ledger written by one of our concerned neighbors. And Hemant Mehta over at the Friendly Atheist covered it. Angry Christian, how dare Polk County, Florida, let an atheist give an invocation? So I'll just read that to you real quick. What possible reason could the Polk County Commission have for letting an atheist group give an invocation at a recent meeting? They do not have any message that is consistent with any quality of spiritual life in Polk County, regardless of one's affiliation. Whichever county official granted permission for this fiasco should be summarily fired because it sets a legal precedent for other factions to demand equal time with monetary consequences should they be denied. Now, of course, inviting Joseph to talk didn't set the legal precedent. Grease v. Galloway set the legal precedent in the United States Supreme Court that said, if you're going to have invocations before your meetings, they just have to be open to everybody. You can't be discriminatory. Just wait for the next group, the Polk County Covenant of Witches, Louis Farrakhan's group, the Nazis, or the KKK to demand equal time, and then sue us for discrimination. Equal time. Yeah, maybe we just shouldn't be doing invocations at all, right? Can't we just go into these government meetings and get to work? If you want to pray as the commissioners, great. Do it in the room before you come out into the meeting room. Do it privately, like the Bible says. Certainly this had to cross the minds of someone in charge at the county. And where is the brain of Commissioner Bill Braswell, who said, as long as there isn't any pig's blood or goat's head, I think we'll be okay? Really? Regretfully, I contributed to this campaign, along with several others whom I thought to be of sound mind at the time. I trust Polk County voters will remember this at the next election when incumbents come begging for money. What's interesting is Bill Braswell commented on this when it was posted on Facebook and said, I don't know this person. Public records are available for anyone who makes a campaign contribution. Never seen this name before, so that was interesting. Okay, so the meat and potatoes here. What is the atheist community of Polk County? It is in dire need of a license for PowerPoint. Because this cheap version ain't cutting it.
The Wi-Fi isn't that great here either.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
I probably went, ooh, atheist? No.
Yeah, right. And I apologize, we've all been sick for the past week. So my voice is even raspier than normal. All right, so we did form as a 501c3 nonprofit tax-exempt organization. We're organized for educational and charitable purposes. That includes promoting evidence-based education, particularly in the areas of science, history, and civics, advocating for the constitutional principle of separation of church and state, educating the public on the value of a secular government, encouraging critical reasoning and free thought, and the ideas and values of humanism. So this is a question we got a few times once we first sort of launched. Why did we put atheist in the group name? Won't that turn people away? Is that a bit in your face? We could have been a free thought group. We could have been a skeptic group. But when we sat down to figure out what we were going to do here, one of the things that we noticed, and we've heard this from people who've reached out after finding out about the group. Have you ever felt like you had to hide this from people? That you couldn't be open about not believing, as silly a thing as that is? So by being unapologetically openly atheist and wearing the scarlet letter, while we do the things that we're going to talk about that are sort of our mission, that is going to help change the perception of atheists in the general public, right? And that makes it easier in the future for more people to come out and be accepted for, or at least understood for what they believe.
Glad you chose atheists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we specifically chose to put community as a prominent part of the identity too, because that's what we're really doing here. We're trying to create a positive community of non-believers. So how all of that plays out, I'll share our vision and mission statements. So our vision is a world in which evidence, reason, and critical thinking, rather than religious dogma, are the foundations of public policy and education, where religious beliefs are no longer an excuse for bigotry and discrimination or given special treatment from the government. And then how do we get there? We're going to increase the visibility of and respect for non-theistic viewpoint here in Polk County through socializing educational opportunities like this and others, activism and advocacy, and community service. We're going to oppose discrimination and promote equality in all its forms. Defend religious equality by protecting what Thomas Jefferson called the wall of separation between state and church, created by our First Amendment, and to work with other organizations in pursuit of these common goals. So we are also an affiliate of American Atheists, which is a national organization, and we have adopted their program called ACEs, and that focuses what we're doing on 4 key areas: activism, community, education, and social. And each of us have sort of taken one of these on as the thing that we're going to champion, and then long-term down the road, the plan is to build out committees so that we have teams working on these things, because this is all a volunteer thing, and it's a lot of work for one person to do any bit of it. This is an interesting set of data. So some of you filled out the interest survey that we posted online. Thank you for taking the time to do that. One of these questions asks you to rank those 4 things in order of what's most important to you. What do you want to get most out of the group? And I think this shows a really interesting distribution in all of these different interest areas, which was thrilling to see. Again, like not knowing if this, what I would like a group to look like and what I would like a group to do translates to what anybody else wants, who knows, right? I had no idea. So this could have come back that everybody just wants to do a social thing, but it didn't. There's a wide range of interests and diverse ideas in the group. So let's take a look at each of these briefly here. First, before we kind of get into activism, this ties in. We need to talk about what is an atheist issue. This has come up a few times in the Facebook group too, where people were discussing political or social issues, and then you'd get the response, "But I thought this was an atheist group." Yeah, okay, but if all we do is, "Oh, hey, happy Saturday, still no God," and share memes, like there are groups that already do that. We want to be able to do more than that. So, yeah, come on in.
Yeah, there's seats right there.
Plenty of seats.
You can sit next to Jonathan.
But those people who were thinking, I thought this was an atheist group, were probably thinking of these issues, right? Church-state separation, prayer before government meetings, teaching Christian stuff in schools, 10 Commandments monuments on the Capitol grounds, that sort of stuff, right? And those are definitely atheist issues. But what about these? Conversion therapy, LGBTQ rights, abortion, women's rights, sex ed, climate change? Are those atheist issues? Good answer. So, really, anything that we are interested in, technically, becomes an atheist issue. But for these specifically, when you look at them through the lens of who's behind it, it becomes pretty clear, right? Is religion the primary motivating factor? Is religion being used as an excuse to discriminate? Is religion being offered as a solution instead of an evidence-based approach? Well, who's pushing laws to make it legal to discriminate against LGBTQ people? Where does the opposition to women's reproductive rights come from? Who's pushing abstinence-only sex ed? It's all religion. And so this makes it an atheist issue.
Even the Luke gun laws were good.
Yeah. So when we talk about activism, and you don't have to raise your hand unless you want to, but who considers themselves somewhat of an activist or maybe a firebrand atheist?
Awesome.
So the sort of things that we can do as activists. Next month, we will be tabling at Polk Pride. That's June 15th at Pride in the Park in Lakeland at Munn Park. And that's the banner that will hang in our booth. When equality is under attack, atheists show up. And all of those issues that we talked about really boil down to equality. It's allowing religion to the privilege to discriminate against others. So, and that's a volunteer opportunity. If you want to work the booth with us, let us know afterwards. But we can do things like, the Women's March and the March for Science, and, we can go to the Capitol. Let's load up on a bus. And if we show up in our bold atheist shirts, supporting communities who are marginalized, just like us, that helps change that public perception of what an atheist is and what we're about. We can organize letter writing campaigns, reach out to elected officials on matters that are important to us, write letters to the editor. They've been publishing them, interestingly, surprisingly. Community is a little more geared towards the humanists in the group. So this is all about giving back while, again, improving that public perception of what an atheist is. So we talk all the time about thoughts and prayers aren't good enough, right? We need action. That's where the community cornerstone comes in. Volunteering and community engagement. Hi there, come on in. Come on in, have a seat. In April, we got a small group together to participate in Relay for Life. That was our booth at Relay for Life. And that was a lot of fun because we didn't have a real big turn. I mean, we were still really just a small little Facebook group at that point. So we weren't surprised that there wasn't a big team that we were able to put together this year. Next year, we're going to go for it. But there we were, again, in our atheist shirts. And you had the First Missionary Baptist Church and the Heartland Church all there. And everybody had to walk by you every time they did a lap, right? We got some interesting responses, a lot of positive responses. We were very surprised at the amount of positive response. There were a couple one guy that stopped by and looked at the sign and looked back up at me, and an atheist. Seriously? I said, yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I kept seeing stuff on Facebook, stuff about this life, and I was like, I couldn't see what it was and what the participation was, or what. But if it was an event like where they were running laps, like I would have worn an atheist shirt.
Yeah.
With them, which
Yeah.
would be great. But I couldn't find anywhere where what is this thing and what's it supporting and what's it paying for, and
Good to know.
I never seen what any of it was. I'm like,
Good.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I just kept skipping over it.
That's great feedback for us for the next one. Yeah, so Relay for Life is like Race for the Cure, but it's a team thing where super chill, especially this one. But the idea is that one person from your team should be walking around no running allowed, walking around the track at all times, to show that we're not giving up on the fight, right? Somebody's always fighting, somebody's always walking. But yeah, we had some interesting people stop by, and the one guy was just shocked that atheists, what are you doing here?
Well, the church tent was selling popcorn for like $1 a bag.
You can get right up.
Proceeds they would donate back to the, sorry.
It's exactly what it is for cancer research.
But it was like, so each tent kind of was selling things or doing things to raise money to donate, or your team could just donate. So
It all goes to the American Cancer Society.
Does it make more sense for an atheist group to be there trying to raise money for cancer than
It was so weird. The opening ceremony was hard to listen to as an atheist because
They prayed.
I get it.
Oh yeah, they prayed.
You went through some of the worst physical shit that a person could possibly go through, and whatever got you through that, fine, right? I'm glad you got through it. I'm glad you're here. But these survivors that got up and talked, and then thank you, Lord, for getting me through all these hard times, and Jesus for healing me, and that kind of stuff. And it was just so hard to hear because, but the doctors and the researchers and anyway. So it was just the four of us, and we had barely a little time to fundraise. But we came in 15th out of 34 teams as far as fundraising. Again, alongside the First Missionary Baptist and the Heartland Church. They beat us, but they won't next year.
Yeah, but they were selling popcorn, and we
Yeah,
didn't
they
know
were.
you could do that.
So under the community banner, some of the things that we're doing. Tomorrow morning, we are going to be in Bartow doing a cleanup project with Keep Polk County Beautiful. Is the local organization that manages cleanup projects. They're the ones that do the Adopt a Road for the county roads. And so tomorrow we'll be in Bartow. if you want information about that and want to come out with us tomorrow and clean up an area, it's kind of like a park. It's grassy.
Yeah, it's a park in the roadway.
So we're going to be out doing that. And then that kind of kicks off an ongoing roadway cleanup. We've adopted a road. We think we know which road it is. The road that we wanted, the road that they originally gave us, which was a very high-trafficked, great, perfect road, was just absorbed by the state. So now it's a state road instead of a county road, so they can't give it to us. But it's in Auburndale or East Lakeland, Auburndale-ish area.
In between
It's
Auburndale.
Old Dixie Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're also looking at, for this fall, there's a program with Polk County School District called Hearth that raises funds and collects items for homeless and in-transition students. So these are kids that may be like legit homeless, living on the streets. They may be couch surfing at different houses. And these are the opportunities for us to get in and really make a difference. So we're going to gear that up probably towards the beginning of the school year when the need is the highest. But that's another one of these community engagement, giving back things that we're looking at. And there's other organizations that we can work with as long as they don't have, discriminatory hiring practices that say, gay people can't work here and atheists can't work here. And as long as they don't tell you you have to say a prayer and read the Bible before we'll feed you a meal. And we can create our own programs so we don't have to deal with that shit. The next one is education. Here you are. So this is more a skeptic, critical thinker, free thinker kind of thing, right? We want to educate ourselves on issues that are important to us. We want to keep our minds open to new evidence, and when new evidence is presented and absorbed and vetted, then we change our confidence level on a belief proportional to the evidence, right? So we want to be able to do that too. That's what we would ask of the believer in conversation, right? If you were to see evidence that the stuff that you believe isn't true, you should reduce your confidence and at a point, discard the belief. And a lot of us probably got here that way, right? But we want to keep doing that too. Just because we've lost the God belief doesn't mean that we're all skeptical in every other way. And it's easy for us to fall into all kinds of goofy conspiracy theory, bad science bullshit, right? So that's the kind of stuff we're going to work in the educational segment. We're going to bring in speakers that talk about these topics and the things that we talked about being atheist issues, both traditional and sort of alternative. We're looking at bringing in speakers to talk about issues that are impactful here in Polk County, but also nationally and at the state level. And we can share our own stories, our experiences. We can help each other. The things that we've been through can be helpful to others. But we might do panel discussions. We might do, there might be a video we want to screen. So there's a lot of different things we can do with the education. I'm also creating a YouTube channel, which I'm hoping that this is recording properly for. So all of these will be posted there, and there are other things that we can do with the YouTube show also. And then social, right? This is probably what brings a lot of people in the door to groups. This is the opportunity to get together and hang out with people who are like-minded, who are not judgmental. So we went to the Lake Wales Art Festival in, was that February? And then in April, we went blueberry picking. And then we've sort of started some regular meetups that happen. I think they're like every other week-ish now, and we're trying to move them around to different cities, different times of day, different types of activity that appeal to different people, just so that more people can get involved. And these are, we're not expecting everybody to want to show up to these in the atheist shirt with the scarlet letter. It's probably not appropriate for all of these kinds of events. But let me share a couple of stories to encourage you to do it anyway. So again, we were at the Relay for Life, rocking our atheist shirts. Rachel went to a town hall on education back in March and stood up and said, I'm with the atheist community of Polk County, and we oppose public taxpayer dollars going to voucher programs to private religious schools, and we oppose this Bible class being taught in our schools. And after that meeting, at least a couple of people reached out. And one even said something about, I think I saw somebody in one of your shirts, like out and about in town, which is crazy. I don't think we figured out who that is yet.
No, we haven't yet.
If that's you, thanks. Keep wearing it. When we went to the art festival, right, we're all sort of interested in art in different ways. Keith doesn't like to have a lot of attention put on him, but this is his photography. This picture here of us at the Blueberry thing, and the stuff that he's done with the portraits that he's doing, he's amazing. So I'm going to give him attention anyway. So we're at the art festival, right? And that's sort of the perspective that Keith has. He's artistic. And he went into one of these booths and came out with a pamphlet that had been printed off of Answers in Genesis that talked about all the bad things about evolution and how you can't trust it, wearing his bright atheist t-shirt. So, again, being visible like that puts a positive face to atheism. We're out supporting community events. We're supporting local businesses while we're doing this stuff. And we're building relationships in the process. And there have been some more private events too. We had a couple of lunches at our house, ice cream social, that sort of thing. So we're really just trying to mix these up. And we know that not everybody can be out. So we want to, make sure that we're respectful of that and making a comfortable, inviting space for people like that too. So all four of these things combined, activism, community, education, and social, we think are a good platform to sort of build this community on top of. And it offers a variety of opportunities that meets a lot of different interests. When you plug in the issues to this format, here's an example of how that looks. So this uses women's rights as the issue. So for activism, we can show up at the Women's March, right? Support equality, equal pay, equal rights, bodily autonomy. Again, unapologetically in the atheist shirt. Then for the community service part, we could collect hygiene products for if there's a program, I don't know that there is, but we may just create our own, that'll support women and girls in need. For education, we can bring somebody in from Planned Parenthood to present to us on a topic so that we can learn and expand and educate ourselves. And then we can invite Planned Parenthood supporters to come hang out with us at a social mixer that builds relationships across with them, because when equality is under attack, atheists show up thing is the first part of that message, right? We're going to show up to support you when religion is discriminating against you. Even though we may not be gay, even though we may not be women, even though the issue may not directly impact us, it's important for us to be there because religion is the problem, right? Then later down the road, when we need them, we've built that relationship, we have those networks, we can call them up and say, hey, there's a thing going down, can you guys come march with us? Can you back us up? Come to the Capitol with us. So if you pick just about any topic and plug it into this structure, you think you can see that there's a lot that we can do with it. Just a quick couple of upcoming events, the big ones. All of these are on Facebook and Meetup. If you're online and want to know, excuse me, what we've got going on. Tomorrow again, we'll be in Bartow with the Great American Cleanup, so we'd love to see some more people show up to that. In June, we'll be at Polk Pride again. You can volunteer with this. We'll have flyers to hand out that explain sort of what we're about, and then a flyer that explains why equality is a thing that we care about.
Another thing we're doing at Polk Pride is if you're not a member of American Atheists, we actually can sign you up for free at Pride instead of having to pay the membership fee.
Yep.
And I don't know what it is. What was it, $45 or $50?
It was something like that, $50.
So if you want to do that, come out
For
and
the
see us
family.
at Pride, and we'll be able to hook you up with that.
Yep. So they do the free memberships for American Atheists during Pride events. We're also getting some swag from them that we can hand out. But if you want to work the booth, it's really just kind of talking about this stuff that we're doing, why you got involved, sort of, you'll probably be talking to people about your background in religion and how you got to here, got to where you are, that sort of thing. No huge expectations, it's real chill. And if you've never been to Pride in Lakeland, it's actually a lot bigger event than we ever expected. We've been going for like 3 years with the podcast. And it's growing and each year, but also it still has this very small town, homey sort of feel. Like when you go to Orlando Pride, it's just ridiculously huge, and there's no way that you could ever even connect with somebody because it's just such a massive thing. Polk Pride is not like that at all.
It's a very small park, and it's a little bit bigger now that they got rid of that statue.
Oh, thank God they got rid of that statue.
Thank God, really?
Yep.
Which one?
Good question.
The Confederate one?
The Confederate God? Yeah. So this meeting next month, we're going to have David Mercer come and speak. And David was a minister for 35 years in West Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. And he was ordained in the United Methodist Church. He struggled with doubt for decades and finally surrendered to the conclusion that he didn't believe in God. But he was still preaching in the pulpit. So he's going to tell us sort of his story about being an atheist in the pulpit and how he finally got out of that. He's a member of the Clergy Project. And he's also looking sort of forward thinking to the future and how he and we and all of us can help people who have been harmed by religion, often for years and years and years, who are still struggling with those things. Some of us don't even know that that's what we're struggling with, right? But that's sort of what he's, very pastoral thinking, right? Like, how can I help people? So that's sort of the talk he's going to give. If you saw him in Orlando, this will be different. He's going to cover a little bit of the same ground as far as his kind of journey through to atheism, but the main topic will be a little bit different. And then I briefly just want to talk about community, right? So we talked at the top about why atheist was important to put front and center. So I want to sort of end here with community. Again, we're a diverse group of people. We have, we probably only agree on one thing, probably not a God. And then every other issue that you could come up with, there's probably disagreement in this room. So atheists aren't a monolith, right? And I mentioned the goal of fostering respect for non-theists in the mission statement, and that really starts here between us in the conversations that we have with each other. So we believe that the best approach is to that goal to develop ourselves in the way we interact with people. And the internet can be the death of civil discourse, shutting down believers, calling them stupid for believing in fairy tales. That doesn't further any of these goals. It certainly doesn't put a positive face to atheism. And it makes us feel good maybe for a moment, but then other than that, what good does it do and at what cost, right? So we want to encourage positive conversations with people, whether they're believers or not. A lot of that comes from the anonymity of the internet. When you don't have body language and cues to pick up on when you're talking to somebody that are so important in communication. And we can work to get better at that. And some of that comes from the pain and anger that we all have from being harmed by our religions. and we can work on healing. Positive atheist culture starts from within. So if we want to have people respect us, we have to respect ourselves. We have to respect each other.
Okay, so that's for community. I gotta find out what atheist means.
So I'm going to quickly run down some of the things that we have available. Okay, so we have Meetup. If you just want to know when these events all are, the social get-togethers, the educational meetings, when we're going to go do activisty things, the community service events, that's all on Meetup. And if you don't want any of the other stuff and you just want to know when the events are, Meetup is a good way to do that. Instagram, of course, is the home of photography, so we'll post pictures from events and stuff, all the pictures Keith takes. We do have a Twitter, but we're not real active on it. It's there, but generally we'll share news stories and retweet things that we appreciate. Then the Facebook page, that has all of our events too, and generally we just share news stories to that. Not a lot of opinion. And we've started posting some videos to the YouTube. And all of this information I have printed out that I'll dig out afterwards if you want to come and look at the links. Then the Facebook group. So the Facebook group is primarily where the discussions happen. So this is where a lot of the questions come up. And sometimes the same questions over and over and over again. So again, this is really just, we do post the events there. We do share some news stories there, but largely this is for discussions. And people will come in with differing views. We know this has already happened. And we're not heavily managing and this isn't a dictatorship, right? We're volunteers. We don't have time for that. We're not policing the group like that. So we are encouraging everyone, if you're there, just like we would encourage you on a post that someone makes about religion, to engage in thoughtful, respectful debate with an interlocutor, we would expect you to do the same thing internally with others in our group, right? Let's not shout each other down. Let's not dogpile when somebody comes in with a position that might not line up with our beliefs, even the majority of us, right? That's an opportunity to reach out to somebody and engage in useful dialogue that might help them reconsider their position. And I believe we can have these civil conversations about hot topics and disagree and argue about it, and then put the swords down and go out and hang out and get drinks together, or go show up at Pride together, right? We can do that. Then the last piece is the one here. This is the in-person experience. So this is the heart of what we're trying to do, of what we're building. This is where we volunteer together, where we learn together, where we build relationships with each other. All of that other stuff, those are tools. Those are just ways that we can get in touch with each other. Let's not take that all ridiculously seriously. But this in-person stuff, when we're going to get together like we're doing today, and we're going to have guest speakers come in, and we're going to go out and clean up a roadway, that's what this is really all about. When we set out to do this thing, and we said, what kind of group would we want to join? What kind of group would we want to be a part of? It's not arguing with people on Facebook. It's not even looking at pictures on Instagram. It's getting together and doing this stuff. So take that away. That this in-person experience, that is the atheist community of Polk County. Now, we wouldn't be any good nonprofit organization if we didn't do a little fundraising. So if we could get the organ music, and ladies, if you want to bring the plates.
I won't have to wait. I'll pass some cheese.
I'm kidding. So So having learned all of this, I hope that you'll consider this as an investment. We've heard from a lot of people who've been looking for something like this. And to be transparent, just getting all of the things lined up, the legal documentation, getting registered as a 501c3, all of that stuff had cost about $750 that we put up. And we did it because we love this and this is what we want to do, right? But there are annual reporting costs, things that we have to do that, by the way, religion doesn't have to. Churches don't have to file the same annual filings that we do, and that's bullshit.
I was going to say that.
Which part?
That's bullshit.
Okay. Right, we have website costs and promotional materials that we're going to get. And some of the speakers that we're looking at, some of the bigger name speakers, but some of the speakers that we're looking at bringing in, a lot of them expect to be paid travel costs or have speaking fees, like some of them over $1,000, right? And so they're not coming yet, but that's the kind of stuff that we are going to be investing in. Some of you have already donated, thank you. I don't know if those people want to be recognized publicly, but I'll find that out and we'll put it in the next meeting if you do. That's a question going forward. If you want to be recognized publicly, we are happy to do that. So just briefly, a couple of ways you can support. You can donate directly on our website. We can also do credit card, check, all that payments here on site. And we're still waiting on the Amazon Smile registration to get approved. That takes some time, apparently. But once that goes through, if you're somebody that shops on Amazon, you go to a special link and shop, and then Amazon will take a percentage of your purchase and donate it back to the atheist community of Polk County. So that's an easy way to throw a couple bucks here and there. And once that gets approved, we'll let you know. Too far. Briefly about employer match. So particularly if you work for a large corporation or a large business, check with your human resources. There are matching programs that these companies offer to their employees, and a lot of times. I'll give you a couple examples. So Geico, if you work part or full-time for Geico, they offer a corporate match program that will match dollar for dollar up to $1,000. Double your money, just like that, just by filling out a form on the intranet. Duke Energy has a similar matching program, but they also have a volunteer match program that takes the hours that you volunteer and converts that into a cash donation back to the atheist community of Polk County. So for those of you who work for bigger companies, probably they're the ones that have them. Do a little research if that's something you're interested in, and let us know because we may have to get set up through the employer to be, registered and able to receive those payments. There may be some paperwork we have to provide, and we're happy to do that. Memberships, here's a last minute thing that we just decided to add. So initially, we were just going to take donations and add the membership thing at a later date. But we learned some more things and did some more research and decided we were just going to go ahead and launch it. Excuse me. There is a free membership option. We don't want anyone to not feel like they can be a part of this family because they can't afford to, right? And we're probably going to eventually create a program where you can donate on someone's behalf to fund their membership for them if that's something that you would be interested in. So we have all the forms here. If you want to do that today, again, there's a free membership that gets you on the list so that when we have conversations with the media and with lawmakers, and then we can say, well, the atheist community of Polk County represents 150 of your constituents or whatnot, right? Then there are some paid membership levels that come along with some perks and privileges.
That sounds hateful.
There will be, eventually there will be different elections and voting and things that are going to happen there. We'll have an annual meeting for the members to come and find out, sort of the state of the station, where we are as an organization. We're going to be as transparent as we possibly can, and really overshare, probably. That's a thing that I do. I do everything a little extreme, if you couldn't tell. I don't do anything half. Aw, thanks. So for some of those membership levels, we are going to offer some gifts, some thank you gifts with paid memberships. Just a quick note about the shirts. We do have some of these. We have a very small quantity of the pink ladies V-neck and the men's purple crew neck with the large logo on the back, right? The next order we're going to put in, we're going to order a broader range of colors, and I think we may be putting the logo on the front. I haven't really figured that out. And the style of the shirt
we've all decided that we want it on the
may
front.
change slightly. Yeah. Right. It's nice to have it on the front, because then when you're talking to somebody, it's right there,
You can
right
wear a
front and
button
center.
down over it, and
If
then
you-
you can just go.
Like Superman. If it's on your back, they don't know you're an atheist
Right.
until you turn your back on them, right?
Once they got your back, there's nothing left to say.
So if for those who've already donated, if you want to convert that to a membership, talk to us. We can do that. That's no big deal. But if you're ready to invest in the organization like that, talk to us. We'll help you get that set up. As a 501c3 organization, your donations and membership dues may be tax deductible on your income taxes. Always check with your tax planner, your analyst, to be sure. But generally speaking, they are. And all of these donations go right into the organization. None of us take any salary or pay. There's no employees. Everything goes right into the community and gets invested in all of the programs that we're working to build. So, but again, just to be clear, we don't want anybody to feel like money is an object and you can't be a part of this thing. So definitely check into the free membership too. So let's wrap up here. This is our contact information, and again, this will be printed out. We'll have it if you want to copy down our email. Becca and I are taking on the education and activism. We're sort of leading those programs, and then Rachel and Keith are doing the community and social. And again, long-term, the plan is we're going to identify people to build committees to really grow these programs and make them do more. And I think I canceled that other slide. Yeah, I did. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
and our business cards here if you want one. So let's wrap up here this way. That gives you kind of an overview of what we've been working on the past few months, some of the things that we've already done, some of the things that we're wanting to do, and kind of the ways that we're hoping to grow this thing. But we want to hear your ideas too. We want to, if you have any questions, we are happy to answer them, and we can do that now if anybody has a question.